up here with Hillbilly Half Acre Homestead again. I want to welcome you to the Homesteader's Workshop. I've been working on something for the pigeons. I want to try to get some things better situated and make them a little more comfortable. My breeder pigeons and my young birds as well. Although my young birds are not so young anymore. I'm down to probably only 4 or 5 birds. I think I counted 6 earlier. 6 birds in my young bird section of my loft, and one of them is sitting on an egg, so not so young anymore. Anyway, what I'm getting at is I'm going to show you these perches. Now I've got a few fantails, and what I've ran into is, one thing, we've not kept our pigeons loft. We've not kept the floor and the perches and what have you. We've not kept that scraped and cleaned like we should have. Okay, I confess, you know, it's just, it hasn't been done. We've been paying attention to other things and not giving them, that's one of the ways that they've been neglected, is we've not been keeping it clean and giving them the clean and sanitary loft that they deserve, okay? And that's something that I want to improve on. But another thing, that we've got a few fantail pigeons out in the loft, and if you're familiar with fantail pigeons, their tail feathers, especially if they're not holding them up, their fantails, their feathers lay down, and we're talking from their feet, they might hang back about 7 or 8 inches or even more from where they're standing. And the whole point of a fantail pigeon is to show off their beautiful plumage, and part of that, and the biggest part of that, is their tail feathers. And a good fantail pigeon loves to hold those tail feathers up, but at other times they droop down, and when they droop down, that's when we have a problem, because the perches that I had in the loft were designed more for homing pigeons who don't have quite the tail feathers that fantails do. And so when fantails either sit on the floor or sit on those perches designed more for homing pigeons, they drag their feathers on the ground, or they drag their feathers through, you know, where those perches, we've got V-perches is what we've got. When they sit up there, and especially when they're sleeping in there, if the V area of that perch, where it's designed to catch their droppings so it doesn't fall on birds that are on the perch below, you know, and the idea is to go by with a scraper and scrape that clean and let it all fall to the floor, and then you scoop it up and get it all out, okay? Like I said, we haven't been doing that, so, you know, we've got piles like this, and, well, we're going to get that cleaned up, no doubt about it, okay? There's just no doubt. But on the other hand, on these perches, when a fantail sits on those perches, even when it's a new perch, nice and clean, that day's droppings is still going to be there, because I think we used to make it a point, we didn't scrape every day or twice a week. We usually shot for, that was a weekend chore, you know, a Saturday afternoon chore or something like that, and that usually kept it fairly clean, okay? But here's the problem: if you've got a fantail and it's sitting up there on those V-perches, when it hunkers down at night to sleep and sits down on its feet, those tail feathers are going to hang down in that day's droppings or yesterday's. Anything that hasn't dried yet is going to soil their tail feathers, okay? And what's the purpose, what's the point of having fantails with beautiful feathers if they're soiled with dirt and droppings and anything else that they might pick up off of the floor or off the perches or what have you, or even if they fly outside, you know, they can, you know, they fly outside, sometimes they get up on the roof of the house and they will get a little darkness on their feathers just from dragging it across the asphalt shingles, you know. But this is something that I can't control that, you know. They're going to do that, or well, I guess maybe someday I can, but right now I can't control that. Something that I can control is the type of perch that they have to sit on, and this is something that I'm trying out, okay? And I just want to show you how I've done this here, okay? This is, even though the fact that it has this groove here, folks, is irrelevant. This is a this is a normal 1x2, okay, 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch. This length here, all right, is 10 inches, and it's a 1x2, just a 1x2. This is just some old pallet wood that I used. The fact that the groove here, that was actually a place for the metal banding to go on the pallet. So what I'm going to do here, okay, I'm going to go groove it down when I do this, but this right here, this was something similar to this. It was a little thicker. These were 1/4 inch thick. But what I did was I took a small scrap piece of 2x4. Yeah, something like this. See this? This was a 2x4, and what I did was I ripped it. I ripped 1/4 inch. Okay. All right, and then what I did was I took a 3.5 inch hole saw in my drill press over there. You've been to the drill press before. You know how to use a drill press. I don't have to show that to you. That's why I'm kind of skipping that whole, you know, if you need to see a step by step, let me know and I'll try to work something out for you, but I think you can get the gist of what's going on here. This, see that? You got to set your hole saw just right so that you don't get a flat spot on your, not that it's important, but if you don't want a flat spot on your circle on either side, you pretty much have to perfectly center your 3.5 inch hole saw. And you cut the little piece off, okay? Then, this little piece right here, this also is 1x2 lumber. And it looks like it measures right around 2.25 inches. Now, that's not that important. I've got some blocks here, and I'm going to make a couple with this 2.25, and I think these are 3. Let me measure here. Yeah, 3 inches. And so, see there, you can see the difference. I'm not sure. I'm trying to stay in frame here. I forgot exactly where I had that camera aimed. But anyway, see, there's about 3/4 inch difference in the two of them. And it might even need to be taller to keep the fantail's feathers up off the ground when they sit down. But here's the thing, okay? I took this little piece right here, without the circle on top, of course. We'll pretend this is a short one, just like that. I took my trusty speed square here, and what I did was I made a crisscross. Now, I didn't shoot to be perfect or anything. I was just giving myself a target, basically, for the drill bit. But when you've got something square like this, you can take and crisscross it, corner to corner, both ways. And where those two lines meet, you're going to be pretty close to center right there, if you draw your lines right. Okay? So that's what I did. Then I took a clamp just like this one here, clamped around here, held it underneath my drill press, and I used a 1/4 inch Forstner bit. Okay, if you don't have a Forstner bit, you can use a regular twist drill, or I don't know if they make a spade bit that small or not, but anything will work. Just keep in mind, you know, the reason I use my Forstner bit is because if I use my 1/4 inch twist drill bit, I find out that these dowels fit too tight. Okay, so it's like these. This was a 1/4 inch bit that was in the center of my hole saw. What I found out was the dowels fit so tight that I was going to break it trying to get that together. So I took these back to the drill press, put my when I had my 1/4 inch Forstner bit already chucked up in the drill press, and ran that down through those holes, and it opened them up a little bit, and that's how I get the 1/4 inch dowels that I use to fit. Okay, so anyway, I drilled a hole, centered it right here. Okay, I didn't go all the way through. I'm not sure exactly how far down. It's not really that important, because what you're going to do is you're going to drop a glue down in there, or some glue down in there. Don't fill the hole up, or you'll never be able to get your dowel down in there. But take and drive a piece of dowel. I think that was about 1.25 inches or something. I don't know. I just cut a couple of them off, and I used both of them that I cut. But what I did was, here's what I had left. Okay, that's just sticking out. Now, as soon as that glue dries, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that to the bandsaw, and I'm going to trim that little bit that's sticking out right there. I'm going to trim that off. Then I'm going to go to the belt sander, and I'm going to lay that down on the belt sander and sand it nice and smooth. Okay? And you'll never, chances are you may not even see a line in there, just depending on how well the dowel fits in there. But so you drill your hole here, you put your glue in there, you put your dowel in there. And then I take and put some glue around out here, and I put some on the part of the dowel that'll be sticking out here. I put some glue there, and then I take and slide that down. Now what you do is you get it on there. It fits just tight enough that you get it started on there, and then you'll need to twist it back and forth. But when you get it down, you can see these aren't clamped or anything, but they're staying down pretty close. There's not going to be a lot of pressure on those, so I'm not concerned about, you know, really clamping them down. You're getting just a super great glue joint. I just want something to hold them in place. I mean, the dowel's going to be glued in there. Pigeon weighs what? Maybe a pound, pound and a half. The point is, they're not heavy enough to hurt this, okay? Now, what I'm going to do, like I said, I'm going to try some taller ones. See, I've got a couple more circles made out here. So I'm going to try some tall ones. But what this is going to do, okay, is this is going to give them some room. When this is gone, this is going to be a nice flat area. Now, what you need to remember about pigeons, they're not tree dwellers, okay? Pigeons are naturally rock, and cliff dwellers, which means they like to perch and mount on a flat surface, okay? So if you're giving them a dowel rod to perch on, they're not going to be comfortable, folks. I mean, I'm sorry, look it up, okay? Don't take my word for it, look it up. Pigeons want a flat place to sit on. That's why the top of my V-perches is something just similar to that. Now, just to make them a little bit more comfortable, when I make my V-perches, I do round this top edge off a little bit. And this is what I'm going to try, okay? Oh, what a happy day, by the way. Thank the Lord. Got some. I told you the other day I was running out of screws. Thank the Lord, I managed to have a little left in the budget. And went and picked me up a pound. Actually, I got 2 of each. A pound of 2.5 inch. I love these square drive screws. They're so much easier to drive, and not having to worry about stripping them out and everything. And these are 1.25 inch. So I'm going to use the longer one. Okay. Let me open one of these bad boys up here. Yeah, there we go. Nice exterior grade coating. $3.89 a box for a pound of them. And I don't think that's too bad at all. I go to Lowe's and spend about $7 for the same pound. And I don't think the screws are even as good. So what I'm going to do, I'll just show you here. One cool thing about these is these are, see, they're self-drilling, self-tapping. And that helps a lot when you're trying to run these into a piece of wood without pre-drilling. So see how this works here. We'll go right like that. See how easy that goes in? Don't have to pre-drill. It saves a lot of time when you're assembling stuff. I mean, not that pre-drilling can, you know, not that it's not important, because it is. Okay, I backed that out. Now I'm going to put just a little bit of glue there. Not a lot. It may or may not even help. We don't know. But I had a bottle of glue sitting there and it's open, so why not? So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this piece of wood right here and we're going to mount it. We're going to mount it right there. And I'm going to try to hold this and run this screw in. Wish me luck here, because I really don't have much place to clamp, much clamping space up there on the top of that until that dowel is. There. No problem. Careful when you're doing this now, because when it pulls them 2 pieces of wood together, you can pinch them fingers if you ain't careful. Okay. Anyway, that's what we got. We got a pigeon perch. So now what I'm going to do is, I think this will be strong enough, and I'll go over here to the miter saw and rip a piece of that off. Probably we'll say that's 3.5 inches wide. Why don't we just go say 3.5 inches? That way it will give us a little extra to brace that, so it's less likely to sag when the pigeons have been sitting on it a while. So I'll pause the camera and I'll go over there and cut us off a piece of that. Okay, that didn't take long, did it? Here we are. Here's our little piece of wood. Now, what I'm going to do this time, I think it'll help a little bit. Just out of curiosity, do you guys ever have the problem I do where you just don't feel like you have just quite enough hands? These clamps do help in that respect, though. Okay. You know what, though? I was going to put some glue on that. You know, there's a reason that I have you guys watching, and that's so you don't let me make mistakes like that. Okay. Just so you know, folks, if you don't glue up a lot of projects, I'm going to tell you a little something about glue. when you're cutting across the board, okay, you know, you've got short grain, you've got long grain, but when you're cutting across the, and you've got, this is end grain. When you're cutting across the board, you've got the end grain. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, the end grain of a board will drink up a lot of glue. It just soaks it up. It's just like little straws running through the wood there, and it will soak up a lot of that glue. And if you don't put a lot of extra glue on a glue joint like that, a lot of times you don't have enough to make a strong joint. Now, one thing that you can do is you can take and put a little bit of glue. This is too much right here. If I was doing what I'm about to tell you, I would not have put that much glue on it. But you can take and put a few dots of glue around on there and take your finger and you can spread it out to where it's just barely like a super thin layer, and give it about 5-10 minutes or so to dry. And what it'll do is it'll kind of seal off the ends of that grain, okay? And then you can turn around and glue the joint up like normal, and it'll be just like if you was gluing it this way, you know, long grain to long grain, okay? Because then you don't have to worry about it. Now see this right here? See how you don't have, see how that's rough right there on the sides? That's your end grain, okay? This is the long grain, and of course this would be cross grain, you know, if you were cutting it. You know, if you cut across the grain, wherever you cut, that's where you're going to end up with the end grain. So just keep that in mind. Got that on there, and I'm not going to put a screw on that, okay? I think the best thing for that is to shoot I think about 2.5-inch brad nail. If you ever hold this like this, be aware and be alert to the fact that if that nail was to split, or not split, if it was to blow out on the side of this piece of wood, you want your hand down there far enough that it's not going to stick into your hand. There, what I'm doing basically is I'm just crisscrossing, okay, and I'm shooting it up close to my. You just have to be. The main thing is just be real careful and see how that goes. A couple of them's all I'm going to need. They're just there. That wood is going to hold. Now, those two hold it in place. Now that clamp is out of the way. Come over there and pop a couple, 3 in there, nice and deep. I always put more fasteners than what's needed, except for screws. Those things are a little expensive, but they hold a lot better than these old brad nails too. Anyway, there we go. So there's a perch. Okay, so now what's going to happen with this is just simply that glue is going to dry there. All that glue is going to dry, and then what's going to happen is I'm going to take a couple of them 1.25-inch screws that I showed you and take my trusty screw gun out to the pigeon loft. And I'm going to stick that right up against the wall, and I'm going to run screws. In fact, this is kind of thin wood. Just to be on the safe side, I may go ahead and put 4 of them in there. A couple down here. I hope I'm in frame here. A couple down here, and then a couple on either side, right here, right here. Anyway, this is pretty much done. I think in the future I'll put a thicker piece of wood here. Even if I was to, you know, I've got some scrap 3/4-inch plywood down there. I've probably got some scrap 1x4, whatever. I don't think you'd really have to have anything that thick, but that's pretty much standard what I use around here, so that's probably what I'm going to find. There's your perch. Now your pigeons, with this out of the way, like I said, this will be out of the way. I explained to you how I was going to do that already. But your pigeon's going to sit up here, your fantail, okay? And then he can turn in a 360 degree in just about every direction except facing straight out away from the wall. His tail feathers are going to hang free, and he's not going to be hanging those tail feathers into anything that's going to soil up his tail feathers, okay? And it's just going to help him stay clean. Trust me, I've got a loft full of white pigeons. Trust me, trying anything you can do to help your pigeons stay clean is a big help, because, you know, white pigeons are going to, you know, it's hard to keep them white. I mean, yeah, they love to bathe and what have you. If you make one of these little perches. Now, what I'm going to find out in the future, I might find out that I want this circle to be a little bit bigger, okay? And if I do, I'll definitely update this video in the future. See, I ripped the little 1/4-inch pieces to make these out of a 2x4, a piece of 2x4. And a 2x4 is only 3.5 inches wide. And I don't know, when I cut that out with a 3.5-inch hole saw, do I end up with a 3.5-inch? About 3 1/4, maybe 3 3/8, something like that. Anyway, you know, it may be that needs to be closer to 5 inches. In which case, we might have to, in the future, if you watch my videos, you know I'm a poor boy and I use what I have on hand, okay? I don't, every time I come up with some kind of a new project, I come up with a way to make it fit the materials that I have on hand. That way I don't have the added stress or pressure of having to figure out how much money I need to run to the lumber shed and pick something up. I try to use what I have, and I use a lot, and I mean a lot of pallet wood. And so this is what I had. 3.5 inch is what I could go with. But if it has to be bigger than that, it might be that in the future I might need to say try to pick up a bunch. I think you can get 1/4 inch, like Luan plywood. You can get a 1/4 inch thick in pieces about, you know, you can get them instead of a full sheet, a 4x8 sheet, you can get a 2 foot by 4 foot sheet. And I bought that before, and at the time I had a little Toyota Camry car, and it would fit in the trunk just fine with room to spare. You know, to get down in there I had to kind of turn it a little cockeyed and slide it this way and lay it down in there and what have you, but it fit in there just fine. And I probably could have put 20 of them in there. So those come in pieces from Home Depot or Lowe's that are small enough that if you don't have a pickup or something like that to haul lumber in, you don't have any excuse. You know, you can pick up something like that in a small car. You know, they don't get, I guess there are cars smaller than a Camry, but it sure didn't seem like there was one that could be much smaller than a Camry when we was driving it. Great on gas mileage, but it just not a whole lot of room. Great car though. Getting off the subject again. So that's what we're working on. If you try one of these, shoot, let me know how you like it. If you make adjustments or tweaks to this, do something a little bit different. Like I said, the next one, or a couple of them, like I said, I made 4 little circles. Now this one's made with another short block like that one, but I've got these 2 longer blocks, this one and this one right here. So these last 2 are going to be a little bit taller. And so I'm going to try that. And then I might find out they might need to be 4 inches. It might need to be more like that right there, you know, just to keep their tails, feathers, and what have you up. Okay, I'm gonna keep piddling around here in the shop while I come up with anything different or something to update worth showing. While I'll clip it. I'll clip it, tie it into this video. But for the most part, I guess I pretty much showed you what I was going to show you. But if you come up with a better way of doing this or something that needs to be changed on it for whatever reason, like I said, this is right here. This is more or less a prototype, and it hasn't even been tested yet. So I'll probably tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to go out there tonight, but I'll probably tomorrow go out there and I'll get all 4 of them done and go out there and put them all up. Probably I'll find out that the fantails won't even want to set on them. That'd be my luck. But anyway, it can't be because I didn't put them out there for them. So, all right, we're gonna cut you loose. Thank y'all for watching. Have a great day, and God bless you.